This guy, he's a legend of Russian rock. His songs have been playing across the country for 35 years. This woman, she's the richest businesswoman in Russia. She built the Russian version of Amazon and made billions doing it. This is the most famous Russian athlete, and this, the most followed Russian beauty guru. If you have eyes, you've probably noticed what they all have in common. Hey guys, I'm Natasha. Nobody knows me yet, but guess what? I'm also from Russia. Grab your coffee, get comfy, because today I'm going to tell you why not all Russians are blonde and blue-eyed Slavs. You're watching Roast of Russia, where we dive into the real Russia, the one you won't see on TV or read about in Dostoevsky. I was born and raised here, I've got the insider scoop. And yes, I just started learning English. I created this channel to practice speaking, but also to share some powerful stories about my country. So pour yourself another cup and stay a while. This will be fun. You know what? I'm honestly tired of explaining to every European that I'm not from China, Korea or Thailand. Meanwhile, in Asia, people think I'm local. One time in Vietnam, this elderly woman actually got mad at me. She was like, "Why are you pretending? I know you are Vietnamese." I swear, every time I travel abroad, people ask me why I don't look like a real Russian. Some even go, I see, your parents are immigrants from Asia, right? Well, surprised. Nope. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, we've all lived in Siberia, even before those lands officially became part of Russia. And if you think that here in Moscow I don't get this question, oh, you're wrong. Real Russians here ask me the same stuff. Where are you from? How did you end up in Russia? While I'm speaking flawless native Russian, way better than my English, honestly. By the way, don't be shy to correct my pronunciation in the comments. I actually appreciate it. We have a saying in Russia that describes my life perfectly. One of our own among strangers, a stranger among our own. That's exactly how I felt for most of my life. And that's why I'm making this video, to explain why not all Russians look like Natalia Vadyanova or Yura Borisov. Spoiler, even they aren't fully Slavic. More on that at the end. So let's break it down. Russia is kind of like a matryoshka doll, you know, the wooden nesting dolls. When you hear a word Russian, you probably picture the outer doll as stereotypical Slavic face. But inside, there's a whole set of different faces: Asian, Persian, Semitic, and even black. Let me explain. Today's Russia look like this, but it used to look like this. Back in the 16th century, Tsar Ivan the Terrible expanded Russian territory massively. In school, they taught us he unified the lands. These days, some people say colonized. The areas he added were home to all kinds of Finno-Ugric and Asian peoples, from folks related to modern Hungarians and Canadian Inuits to ancestors of today's Turks. Fun fact. Yep, the ancestors of the modern Turkish people were originally Asian nomads living in Siberia. Surprised! Fast forward to the 18th century. Russia annexed the Caucasus. And guess what? The region was, and still is, home to non-Slavic indigenous people. In Russia, we usually call them people of Caucasian nationality. But to you, their features might look more Persian or Middle Eastern.
They're the same picture.
And what do you think about all the new territories? No, joining the empire didn't automatically make their lives better. if you know what I mean. For example, the Tsar taxed my ancestors heavily and straight up banned them from doing their traditional work. They were blacksmith and metal workers. That's how they made a living. So, did that help them thrive? I don't think so. Right now, there are officially around 190 ethnic groups living in Russia, but there's the catch. According to the 2020 census, over 80% of the population are ethnic Slavs. That's about 110 million Slavs and around 30 million people from all the other 189 groups combined. So yeah, you're more likely to run into someone who looks traditional Russian than just basic myth. But Russia's always been a mix. We've had Jewish and German communities for centuries, and yes, we've even had Black Russians.
Ой, мамочки.
Наш.
Though they are definitely rare. Most of them arrived after the Soviet Union opened a university called the People's Friendship University. It was kind of like the Soviet version of a global scholarship program.
Учиться на чужом языке – труд вдвойне.
Now let's try to pronounce again. Moskva.
Students from Africa and Asia came to study in Moscow, and some of them stayed, started family, and had kids here. And after the 1980 Olympics, Russian maternity wards saw a little baby boom, including a wave of beautiful mixed-race babies. True story. Yeah, they are rare, but they are 100% real. Look it up. And here comes a spoiler. One of them basically created the Russian language. Now you might ask, so how do you all get along? Well, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you a fairy tales about ethnic harmony. This is Rest of Russia, not a tourist brochure. When I was a kid, other kids bullied me for my eyes. You don't believe me? Listen to what actor Mark Edelstein from the film Anora went through at school just for being Jewish.
Я, условно, был в 5-6 классе, а чуваки были там в 9-11 классе. Главная тема, по которой меня гасили, это была тема, типа, национальности. Они спрашивают, типа, а у тебя вот фамилия, типа, Эдельштейн.
Так.
Это что за фамилия вообще? Главная их претензия, то, что это просто еврейская фамилия. Хотя толкают тебя, дальше ты просто падаешь, начинаешь там кричать, тебе больно, сворачиваешься, тебя пинают.
What about me? When I grew up, things didn't magically get better. For example, landlords wouldn't rent to me just because I looked Asian. And no, I'm not exaggerating. And no, I'm not exaggerating. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Ненавижу это. No, I'm not exaggerating. In Russia, rental ads literally say in all caps, Slavs only. Another example, at work, colleagues would ask, how did you even get permission to marry a Slavic guy? like I need some kind of ethnic visa to date. See, being ethnically Russian in Russia is still a kind of privilege, but don't worry, I'll go deeper into everyday bias and prejudice in another episode. Trust me, it'll be a very spicy one. That said, it's not all bad. Not everyone in Russia is racist. In fact, there are some beautiful examples of mutual respect. Take the Tatars, for example. They are mostly Muslim, and most ethnic Russians are Orthodox Christian. But in cities like Kazan, which is historically Tatar, people actually celebrate together. Russians join in for Kurban Bayram, and Tatars happily eat Easter cakes and visit Russian home for Christmas. Honestly, food and holidays bring people together better than any political speech ever could. Alright, time for some specifics, and I promise you'll be surprised, maybe even shocked. Let me show you just a few people who completely changed Russian history and culture, and guess what? They weren't ethnically Russian at all. Remember, I teased you about a black guy who created the Russian language. Meet Alexander Pushkin, our national poet. He didn't just write poems, he basically invented modern literary Russian. Oh, and his grandfather? His was Ethiopian. His grandmother? Swedish. And Pushkin's bestie, Vladimir Dal, the guy who created the very first dictionary of the Russian language, was ethnically Danish. Zero Slavic blood. Zero. And how about some music? Tchaikovsky was one of the most famous Russian composers, and his mom was French. Now let's go dark for a second. Let's talk about one of Russia's darkest rulers. I'm not even talking about the one you're probably thinking of, I mean Stalin. Yeah, he wasn't Russian either. He was Georgian. Now, let me introduce you to some modern non-Russians Russian. This legend, that's Victor Tsoi, a rock star, an icon. He was Korean Russian. Yep, Koreans were cool here before K-pop made it global. He died over 35 years ago, but he's still insanely popular. In Moscow, there are a wall, Tsoi wall, covered in graffiti and lyrics people keep adding every day.
Богатейшей женщины России. Состояние бизнес-леди по версии Forbes достиг...
And this woman, Tatiana Kim, also Korean Russian. She's the richest woman in Russia. That's how much money she has. She made it all by building the Russian version of Amazon. Let's talk supermodels. Irina Shayk, total bombshell, and not Slavic. She's a Tatar, part of a Turkic ethnic group. And the poster girl for Slavic beauty, Natalia Vadyanova, actually has Erze roots. That's a Finno-Ugric ethnic group. And this first guy, Khabib Nurmagomedov, undefeated UFC champ. He's Avar, an indigenous people from the Caucasus. Pro tip: don't joke around with guys from the Caucasus. Just ask Conor McGregor, he probably still remembers that day. And finally, let me blow your mind with this one. Do you know who was the first ruler of Russia? The one who started the entire royal dynasty. Not a Slav. His name was Rurik, and he was Scandinavian. Yep, that happened. Did you know any of these? Let me know in the comments. At this point, you might be wondering, okay, Natasha, this was cool, but who are you? Well, I belong to a very small nation. There are only about 10,000 of us left. We're called the Shore People, an ancient group from southwestern Siberia. We are descendants of the ancient Turkic Khaganate, the ancestors of modern Turks. Yep, the Istanbul kinds, although we look completely different. So yeah, Russians aren't a copy-paste branch of blonde dolls. We come in all kinds of packaging. We come in many forms, different faces, backgrounds, and histories. And still, we are all part of this wild, complicated country. What do you think? Did any of these surprise you? Let me know in the comments. And tell me what else you'd like to learn about Russia. I read every single message. Smash that like, drop a comment, and send this to someone who still thinks all Russians look like they stepped out of vodka ad. Let's roast some stereotypes together. I just launched this channel and I need your support like right now. Alright, my coffee empty and I've got to run. But I'll see you very soon on the next roast of Russia. Bye for now.